10 things every prepper should hoard. Come with me. Oh my. Be a gentleman. First things first, probably having a reliable, renewable food source is a really, really good idea. Gardening is a good idea, but having chickens is probably the easiest livestock. They lay eggs, they free range. You got to worry about predators, but they free range, so you don't have to feed them very much. So that's a really good thing. You don't have to rush out to the feed store to buy them chicken feed. I feed my chickens almost nothing, and they're doing great. They lay about an egg a day, give or take. And then when they stop laying eggs, you just eat them. There may come a time when the hardware store is not available, and if you want to build something, fix something, repair something, you're just not going to have the nuts and bolts and screws to make that happen. So I highly recommend hanging on to everything. Lag bolts. These are I've got a 5-gallon bucket full of some finished nails here. I have no idea what I'm ever going to do with that many finished nails, but I've got a bunch. Every screw, deck screws, these are 3-inch deck screws. I build almost everything out of this. As long as you have a way to charge your batteries in your drills, then you have a way to build things with these screws. If you don't, then it's a good idea to have backup nails. I've got lots of nails. These are for a nail gun, a pneumatic nail gun, but I've also got nails that you can just drive with a hammer. So ways to bind things, glues and tapes and all that stuff is really, really important and may not be as easily accessible as it is right now. Fuel for your vehicles is a really good idea. Not every SHTF situation is going to be lifelong. Sometimes it's temporary. There might just be a fuel shortage for a short period of time, and you need to be able to get your vehicle fueled up to get from A to B to do whatever it is, carry on normal life. So having some fuel, I need to restock up my cans. I usually keep about 50 gallons or so of fuel laying around, and I try to cycle it out as much as possible so it stays fresh because it doesn't last forever. My truck runs on diesel fuel, and it also runs on used vegetable oil. And I have 2 of these big tanks full of used vegetable oil. I could be driving a long ways. I can cover thousands and thousands of miles with the fuel that I have stockpiled here. Firewood fuel to heat your home is a really, really good idea to stockpile while it's easy to get, while you've got fuel for chainsaws and all that stuff, because without it, it's gonna be very, very difficult. So getting this stuff ready to go, drying it out, seasoning it now because you can't burn the wet stuff. I guess you can, but just not as efficiently. So we cook and primarily heat our home with propane. That's what's available in my area, and that's how we do it. So having this big of a tank, multiple tanks, is a really smart idea. So if for some reason it's delayed getting refilled, because sometimes it is, it took several months for us to get this thing here delivered. And since we're on the subject of fuel, having a way to light your home, having a light in the darkness if the power should be going out for an extended period of time is smart. Oil lamps, really good idea, the old-fashioned kind. Candles, such as these beeswax candles like this, having plenty of those around so you can light up your world again. Now, I hate generators, especially gas generators. They're always a pain in the neck, and they never work when you want them to work. If they're not maintained properly, it's just a disaster. I can't stand them. So having some sort of alternative means of powering your home and keeping the electricity flowing, I think, is a smart idea. I don't have a lot of experience using these yet, but I'm just still in the trial period. But I think that it has a lot of potential. I can charge this thing up with the sunshine. As long as the sun's shining, even on a little bit overcast days, it still charges. So that's a really, really handy thing. And this thing right here can power a lot of the appliances in my house. If you have the means, land is something you should definitely invest in, something you should definitely stockpile. They're not making any more of it, and historically, it's as cheap as it's ever going to get. Yes, the market flows up and down, but if you look at long term, it's not going to get any less expensive. So having some place for you to grow food, to spread your wings a little bit, is a really, really good idea. Having the tools to defend yourself and the necessary items that come along with that is really important. And just like land, just like food, it's never going to become more accessible than it is right now. It's never going to be cheaper. Yes, there's going to be flows up and down, but for the most part, it's a really good idea to get these things now and learn how to use them. Learn how to defend yourself. Learn how to use these things safely and effectively. Alcohol is a good one to stockpile. Easy to find, fairly inexpensive at the moment, and used for all sorts of medicinal purposes, only medicinal purposes, obviously. You can make tinctures out of it, you can use it as an antiseptic, all sorts of good things can be had from pure vodka like this one. I don't know how I feel about this yet, but in the comments you can let me know what you think. But for bartering purposes, I think that alcohol will always have value regardless of the state of the world, regardless of the state of the economy. People are always going to want something to drink. They're always going to get thirsty. And I don't know how I feel about using alcohol, feeding people's bad habits as a bartering item. I don't know if I feel like that's morally right or not. Let me know what you think in the comments. Food is obviously something that's high on the list. I mean, it's probably number one, I would say, as far as what you should be hoarding, stockpiling right now. Because it's never going to be cheaper, it's never going to be easier to find. It's very difficult to grow food. It requires skills, it requires knowledge, tools, property, all of the things. Rice and beans is a obvious one. When you combine rice and beans, it makes a complete protein. It has all of the essential amino acids. Good idea to have rice and beans, a staple food in your diet. Toilet papers, toothbrushes, soaps, all the stuff, toothpaste, all of the things, the toiletry products is a good idea to have on hand as well, just for convenience and comfort and continuing of normal life if the world should go to crap. Do I think you should hoard all the toilet paper in the stores? You know, for short term, yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a stockpile of toilet paper at your house. Long term, probably not going to be that beneficial. You're going to run out of it and you're going to have to come up with alternative means of cleaning your rear end. For women, menstrual cycles, there are reusable feminine products such as reusable menstrual cups, things like that for ladies that are going to have to deal with that stuff on a regular basis. Not an expert in that field, obviously, but I think that those things are something to be considered and it's going to be easy to get it now. For those of you in an urban survival setting, stockpiling water is a really important idea. If you're 100% reliant upon the city pushing water into your home, that could be a really big problem. It could be contaminated, but we've seen examples of that all over the place. Texas, for example, had a big water boil warning, basically, that you had to boil the water that was coming to the house because it was contaminated. So having a way to filter water, having ways to boil water, obviously large pots where you can sanitize your water is really smart. And the fuel, which we already talked about, so you can do that. Having bottled water, having stockpiles of bottled water is a good idea as well, especially if you're in an urban environment. Rain catchment systems, all really smart. If you don't have your own personal well, you don't have creeks flowing through your properties, you don't have spring heads, if you don't have all that stuff, having some way to store large amounts of water, I think, is a really smart idea. Probably, if not number one, it's really close to the top. So highly recommend that. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Can't wait to see you on the next one. Leave a comment for me. Any comment will do. If there's something I missed that you would have put in the top 10 things to prep, top 10 things to hoard, please put that in the comments. It would be greatly appreciated. See you next time.